afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another segment of Asaph Cafe. We just celebrated our 100th cafe, and let me make some acknowledgments first. We have the General Manager of MCAT, Mr. Joel Baird,
Hello.
sitting in with us here. He's sitting here with the cake.
Beautiful cake.
Yeah, this
Scott
cake
got.
was provided, thank you for the cake and Scott Ramp. It was
Oh,
provided
got
by
it.
Bernice's Bakery on 190 South 3rd West. And this is called 50 Shades of Chocolate. is the
My
name of this cake.
goodness.
It is delicious.
It's really rich, isn't it?
It's very rich. It's very
And
delicious.
It's very good too.
Have you got this right to commemorate
Yeah,
the
the
what
100th
number? The
100th.
100th.
Now this is going to be show 101, and our
Yeah.
guest, we had our first guest, which I'll mention in a moment. He's going to be our first guest for show 101. But first, on my left, we have Teresa Toigo,
Hello.
and we have Linda Brooks Curtis, and we have affectionately our aging rocker Linda. I'm sorry.
That's all right. Fascinating.
I'm brain dead. And our first guest for 101, Mr. Eli Miller. And,
Yeah,
he's
that's
going to be
great.
sitting in on the cafe today with us, and I'm watching our time here. So this is going to be kind of fun.
That's really great. Well, Asaph, since I am the general manager and everything, why don't I ask you some general questions
Sure.
that people watching
And we
might
can
be
verse it.
interested in, like
Okay.
what motivated you to start your public access TV show?
Well, I had a friend of mine that used to live in the apartment complex where I live, and he mentioned I should go to the MCAT studio because I had never
Okay.
heard of you guys because, I'm not from Missoula.
Yeah.
And then I recall that September 2004 no, it was July 2004 when you and I first met. And you
Was
were-
that right?
Yeah, it was July 2014.
Okay,
yeah,
yeah.
I was
Did I say
wondering.
2014?
I was going back
2014.
way back. I was like,
No, I'm sorry, I
gosh,
didn't say that.
I've only
2014.
known Asaph for 12 years.
No, 2014 I meant to say.
Yeah.
And you were telling me the guidelines of MCAT,
Yeah.
and I had just came up with that Lawrence Welk idea.
That's right.
Yeah.
That was your first big show, right?
Yeah, that
And
I
then-
came up with the idea, and you told me that if I could put the script and everything together, you'd put it together for me, so I did. I
And
started
you
writing
did
the
that show
script.
at the Florence Hotel?
Yeah, you and I met in July of
Yeah.
that year, and in September we shot it. So that's how
Yeah.
fast it went.
And then you thought about having a weekly show like this?
Yeah, it was based on that Lawrence Welk show, because after we did that, you remember that promo we did, Luis and I?
Yes.
Just way before you guys came along.
Yeah.
We did a promo, and I just blurted out, "Welcome to Asaph Cafe." I hadn't even thought about it. We just had those little brick walls. And it was a promo to the Lawrence Welk show.
Mm-hmm.
And then I had something like 3 hours filming time left over after we did that. So I just called it Asaph Cafe. That's where it came from.
And so it was christened. And you've
It was
been doing
christened,
about
yes.
2 shows every week
Every
on
week,
Thursday
so-
afternoons.
Yes, and Joe gave me that time because it was the most recording time,
Mhm.
1 till 4 o'clock.
Mm-hmm.
That's
Yeah.
how this show basically got started, from that Lawrence Welk show. I
And you've
did.
always had that impulse to perform because you had been performing. Oh, there's a video of you performing in a grocery store,
Yeah,
isn't it? The Patty Creek Market.
that was back in 2010.
Wow.
I
And,
played at that store for 3 years, actually.
Okay.
Time just flies.
The beauty of it is Asaph has such a huge repertoire, he can play almost anything.
Yeah, well, I was
Anything.
trained. I was trained to do that.
Mm-hmm.
I had a teacher named Marshall Coswell, and for a whole year, I had to physically train and learn how to take those songs and make it sound like classical music and think up all that stuff. So I had a really good teacher that
So you
year.
did a lot of improv too.
Yeah, and I had practiced and practiced. I mean,
Yeah.
and you know how this whole thing started with him? He was playing at the Northern Hotel at that time. And I used to go and watch him play. And he came up to me and says, "Asaph, I know you're a good musician. I want to work with you. And you need to start coming to this hotel and just watch me."
Mm-hmm.
And my first thought was, "Oh, God, I don't want to hear another piano player." And he wouldn't back off. He kept
Yeah.
insisting I come to that hotel.
Isn't that wonderful?
And about a
Um,
month later, I started showing up. And then I started coming every day.
Yeah.
And that's how it started. the
Got your
relationship.
chops, as they say in the business.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because he was able to do the same thing, but in a different way than I do it, and I was able to develop this style with his teachings.
Oh, that's
So,
excellent.
and that's how it came
Now,
about.
if people are watching and they think, oh, I would someday love to be part of a television audience for this program,
Yeah, well,
you'd entertain ideas like that? Maybe?
Yeah, when we first did the first Asaph Cafe, I was always I tell Teresa, just picking people at random in the streets. I
Yeah.
used to walk the streets out here before we started and
Yeah.
just grab someone.
Like humans of Missoula.
Yeah,
So if people are watching and they say, oh, I wouldn't mind. I mean, it does seem warm here under the studio lights.
I
You guys
know.
use a lot of studio lights.
you
which
have
is
to.
kind of
There's no way out of
kind of
that.
exciting. But often you do have food. and conversation. That makes up your show.
Yeah, well, the premise
Food,
of,
music, and conversation.
Yeah, and it's a cafe. The premise of this show, instead of it getting all political stuff, I didn't want that.
Yeah.
I just wanted a show where every week a person comes and all they do is
Or
talk to
persons.
me. Yeah, persons.
Person.
All they do is talk to me as I play the piano. That's it.
Yeah.
No script, nothing, and just talk about anything.
Right.
And Emmett, you know this. Some of
Yeah.
the things we talked about: Mail Order Brides, Wonder Woman,
Oh my goodness.
Star Trek,
You got a
science
lot of
fiction.
subjects.
Easy
We talked
listening.
about easy listening. Talked about Burt Kempfert. Talked about Al Hurt. Talked about playing the piano and just all this other stuff.
Rolling
Yeah.
Stones.
Rolling
Oh,
Stones.
you guys, the rock band, the Rolling Stones?
Oh,
Yeah. Here's a piece of painted black. And I'll do a
All
piece
right,
of
let's hear that.
I never got into the Rolling Stones. Yeah, I never did.
Oh, I love Satisfaction.
The closest I come to the Rolling Stones is if you ever see on chart 926, it's toddler tunes. At night, like from 6 to 4 a.m. in the morning, they play what I call the slumber set, for the kids to, get wind down to sleep, little babies, so they play lullabies. There's an album called Lullaby Renditions of the Rolling Stones. They've even done
Interesting.
Satisfaction in toddler, like baby, format, and they've done lullaby renditions of the Beatles, lullaby renditions of Dolly Parton, lullaby renditions of U2. It's very interesting.
Wow, you two. A lot of hard rock bands being made into a lullaby.
It's amazing. It's amazing what it's done. But the kids, they grew up, and guess what? They had kids of their own, so they expose their kids to this stuff. And like I've said before, even on my show, there have been hardcore punk rock songs for kids on toddler tunes. It's in the
Really?
day.
I see.
Punk
Yeah,
rock
yeah,
lullaby.
well, not even a lullaby, but it's a hardcore. It's in the afternoon. It's a fun song. It's by Farmer Jason. I'm a skunk. He's a skunk. I'm a punk rock skunk. I'm a skunk. All about the glory of punk rock, and this is for babies. Punk rock is now so mainstream. It's unbelievable. Toddler versions of what was that? Something a go.
Gosh, you guys just did like a mashup, between
Yeah.
Emmett's speech and your music.
And what was it called? What was that song? Oh, I hate it when I can't remember the name of the band. I should the Ramones. Have you ever heard Blitzkrieg Bob? Blitzkrieg Bob. They did a show of kids beat dad something or another, but it was a similar version. Hey, let's go, and I couldn't believe it. Punk for babies. I mean, punk just isn't a shock anymore. Remember 20 years ago?
Yeah,
Oh,
when it
yeah.
first came out. I remember
30 years ago, it
Plasmatics.
was
Do you
like-
remember that group, the
No,
Plasmatics?
I never got into them.
Well, they were on Tom Snyder's talk show, and they blew up a car on stage with the evangelist Rex Humbard.
Oh,
Lord. Now you have a clip because I've got to go off.
Okay.
You want to set up the clip, and
Yeah,
then when
this
you
is
come
when we have
back,
the,
some of the gentlemen will have
Yeah,
a seat.
we'll have Eli sit in your spot,
Thanks,
and we'll
Yeah.
focus
Joel,
on him.
for
You're
all that
most,
you do.
most well
Yeah,
hold on,
And
before
thank
you
you for
disappear,
producing Asaph's show.
Yeah, thanks
Yeah.
for being part of it. I wanted to say, and thank you for this lovely cake.
Oh yeah. You're
Hello, Cake. Are
And
you
I
enjoying
want to
it?
acknowledge Scott Ramp and Noel McAvoy, too, from Wake Up Missoula. They
Yeah.
all make
Because
it
they are
possible,
your
too.
partners in crime in the morning
Yeah,
show,
uh-huh.
Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. at
Yeah, and
8.
it's just such a delight for me to do that news program. I call it a news program, which it is.
Christian and Scott.
Yeah. I'm thankful
Yeah,
to them.
Christian Ackerman is
Christian's
running
working it.
the works today,
Yeah.
so that you could have the rolling footage.
Yeah, I
Fascinating.
know, and I really appreciate that. So I know you got to go. So let's do that rolling footage while Joel Baird takes off.
See you guys soon.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to a special edition of Asaph Cafe. I'm really humbled because this is our 50th show this very day. 50 Asaph Cafes. That's a lot of shows. And so on my immediate left here, we have the Honorable Mayor John Ingen, who is our guest for this special edition of Asaph Cafe today. And of course, Linda Brooks Curtis. She's one of our regulars that's been with us, and we have all the food here. Patty's not able to be with us today, and our mascot Pee Wee, unfortunately, is not going to be able to be here today. And of course, we have another special guest, Louise Bundy, and she is the hostess of the new Lawrence Welk show that I'm doing, and we'll talk about that. So let's start off this edition here with the traditional "This Guy's in Love with You." Oh, this piano here. It's such a cool song. I like this song. know the words half, sing along if you want.
Elton John.
Do you sing?
I don't
Oh,
know
no.
about Elton John.
No. Okay. We're back, and that was a clip from the 50th Asaph Cafe at that time. We had the Honorable Mayor John Ingen on, so Joel Baird is gone. Thank you, Joel. And now, am I right, our guest for show number 101, which you're the first guest for Asaph Cafe past
I
100.
am honored to be here.
We have Mr. Eli Miller sitting in with us today in the cafe, and of course, again, we have Teresa Toigo on my left, Linda Brooks Curtis, and in the back we have affectionately our aging rocker Emmett. So
Yep.
let's just party and have fun. Help yourself to some cake, what's left over from it. And we have this here, this red grape.
I think I'll get some water. There's some water in this river. I'll scoop it up and drink.
There's some water right here for you.
Yeah,
And there's
thanks.
some real water
Oh,
there if
thanks.
you'd like.
Guess what? I'm a giant. I'm so huge I can
Have a
scoop
cup.
up, it's kind of like a special effect.
Yeah,
I
there
can-
should be is there an extra cup? If not, we can go, yeah, there's a cup right there. See the cups over there with the,
Oh, yeah.
The plastic, yeah.
He's up and walking around. I'll just let him.
it's all right.
Wow. It's kind of like a
Sure.
special effect or something because...
And
I can
this
do
is
that
the
too.
50 Shades of
Mind
Chocolate
if I do?
cake.
Yeah, we'll acknowledge that again. That's enough. I just want
Oh, I can scoop up the water and drink it because I'm a giant now. Oh,
Yeah,
there's
see,
a lot.
when Emmett was when we were on our Lawrence Welk set, he was trying to pop the bubbles.
Oh.
Yeah.
Remember that?
Do you have clips of the
None of that. We
bubbles?
didn't have a chance to set that up. So
Uh-huh.
these clips were pre.
So we
Quite a
have
week
bubbly
ago.
in a bottle. but
So we're just going to be doing
it's
this
just
normal
plain
show here.
grape juice.
Yeah, it's sparkling red grape.
Fascinating.
So I like to tell this scene. Did you see the movie Star Trek V by chance?
I did actually. It's been a while though.
Well, there was a scene where Captain Kirk was having a campfire with Dr. McCoy.
I do.
and,
I do
Mr.
remember
Spock.
that. Yes.
And Dr. McCoy was making some beans, and he put some bourbon in the beans. And so Spock was eating these beans up he's like, I've never had a taste like this before. He's just gobbling up the beans. And Dr. McCoy says, well, this is a special ingredient from the McCoys. It goes way back generations.
Mm-hmm.
And so Dr. McCoy says, it's just gin, bourbon, that we put in there. So Spock says, are we to assume that you put alcohol in your beans? He says, yes. That's the secret ingredient. And Captain Kirk says, you got any more of that secret ingredient?
Yeah.
That's a
I
great
remember
line.
that scene
You
all
remember-
too well, yes.
Yeah, Captain Kirk would just want to get a more swig of that stuff that
Yeah.
Dr. McCoy's secret ingredient of the beans.
Yeah.
So I
Like,
got that line. from
Yeah, I
just
really
now.
didn't care for Star Trek V. I liked some of the other movies, but Star Trek V didn't really do it for me,
Well, let's talk about the movies for a second. You know they've made something like 10 Star Trek films.
Yes.
But Gene Siskel and Roger Ebert, do you remember them, the film critics?
Yes. I
Chicago
watched them
Sun-Times and
all
Chicago
the time.
Tribune? Well, they did, yeah, thumbs up, thumbs down.
Yeah.
They did their tribute to the entire Star Trek movies. And according to them, they said Star Trek 1, 3, and 5 were not good, and
Yeah.
2, 4, and 6 were good. Now, I liked them all, but everybody's different.
I had some students who did a takeoff of, what are their names again?
Gene Siskel and Robert Ebert.
Yeah, you
Yeah.
mean the film critics? Yeah.
Yeah, and they named their show Fiscal and Thurbert.
Oh, yeah, I
And
think
they
I remember
did
that.
an imitation. It was
I'll
just
play this for you.
hilarious.
I'm going to play this for him.
You know what I missed? I never thought to talk about that. I missed the show at the movies. It was just an excellent. I remember it in the 80s, and I was hooked. Even if I wasn't going to see the movie, you see, back then they were not politically correct. They would be two tough film critics arguing and debating with each other the merits of it. Sometimes they would love a movie, and then someone like Ebert or someone would hate this movie. It's like, why? But what about the sound effects? What about this acting? This acting just was not believable. No, but don't you understand? But don't, and they would interrupt each other. But don't you understand how incredible that movie was? Because that person's character was incredible. But no, I completely disagree. I mean, it was debating tough film critics, or like there were some good things about it, some redeeming, some not, but like especially, do you remember that acting that was done by this person? Oh, I couldn't believe it. I mean, we have to see this movie. I want to see this movie again, like, unbelievable. All right, and that's it, and that it is And I'm Gene Sisco, I'm Robert Ebert, and I will see you at the movies. And then would continue talking. I loved that show. I miss it.
The
Yeah.
show I miss the most actually is, it was originally named, and it was back in the 1950s
Uh-huh.
when they had the propane powered TVs. It was called Remembering All the Best.
Never heard of it.
I don't know that show.
And originally it was brought about because of the terrific music artists of H. Bomb Ferguson and
Uh-huh.
the Five Stars, and many of those who weren't really recognized when they passed.
Huh.
Oh, I see.
So All the Best was brought about when the great-great-grandson of H. Bomb Ferguson decided, I want him to be remembered. And
I see.
they took it off because of the fact that most of the music had already been copyrighted probably about the 1970s.
I see.
I wish they'd bring it back. I was originally raised up within the 1920s era and originally moved on to Rush.
Mm-hmm.
I see.
Rush?
And
What's Rush?
Rush is a classic rock. I believe they came about in the 1970s, 1980s.
Yeah, Teresa, you would know that one.
Yeah.
The signature song that I remember from them, and my mom used to play it all the time, was Tom Sawyer.
Yeah, I don't know. Mostly I listen to punk
I
rock or
would
easy
recommend-
listening, you know. What a combination, or Gordon
Uh-huh.
Lightfoot.
If anybody loves classical rock or wants that type of music where it fits in anywhere,
Yeah.
Rush would be the perfect.
Does that cover Neil Diamond?
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Oh, I love Neil
is
Diamond.
classic.
Well, I'll do some Neil Diamond here. It's been a while since I've done his stuff.
Elliot, do you like Neil Diamond?
I have not heard Neil Diamond.
Oh, you're in for a treat. You're
the
gonna love
first-
his records. He's incredible.
The first few artists I ever heard of when I was growing up was War, Rush, the
War?
Five Stars,
Did you say war or
yeah.
war?
War.
War!
Yeah.
What is it good for? Absolutely nothing. Say it again.
Are you
I remember
talking about
some.
war or glore?
Yeah. War.
Oh, okay. I hate
And
glore. They're just a
The
disgusting
Rolling
rock.
Stones were, in my teenage years, the Rolling Stones were originally my signature era, and the Rolling Stones brought me out of I would say, the deep dark hole of my teenage years.
Mhm.
What about the
And-
Grateful Dead?
The Grateful Dead, not so much. That was more of my female side of the family. That was their favorite. I eventually moved on to classical, such as Johannes Bach, Mozart.
I'll do that for you.
How
I
about
did
Yates?
the
I'll
German
do for him.
Requiem, mostly, of Franz Schubert, and eventually moved on to the eclectic taste in music.
Interesting.
Now that was Neil Diamond's Sweet Caroline.
Yes.
And since
Yeah.
you mentioned Bach, I'll do a piece of it for you. See
Did
if
you
know
like-
this Bach piece here? Go ahead.
Elliot, have you ever listened to Gordon Lightfoot?
Oh, yeah.
No, I have not.
Oh, you're in for another treat. Oh man, you're just gonna.
Is
Gordon
that
Lightfoot's
Schubert?
beautiful.
No, this is Bach. This is Prelude in C. You
Yeah,
probably.
he's Canadian.
Prelude
Well,
and
it-
C.
Certainly sounds like Ave Maria. by
It
Schubert.
does.
This was
They probably
played-
use an Ave Maria.
Yes.
This was a song that was played when my great grandmother passed.
All right, I'll do it. I'll do it then. I'll do the whole
She
thing.
was the last known survivor of World War I and II.
Whoa.
Really?
The
Wow.
last known.
Well, I don't want to get too creepy, but today is the remembrance of the Holocaust Day too. This
Mhm.
day.
She survived 3 Holocaust camps.
Whoa.
I have a friend of mine, a lady whose daughter used to give music lessons to when I was 19 years old, and she survived the Holocaust too.
Whoa.
And that was a creepy time in history.
Yeah, it
Oh my
was.
goodness. I mean, I don't want to get all political, but that
Right,
was just
it
so
was.
dark,
And
Yeah.
No, let's not get
let
into
you know that
politics.
I don't wanna
Satan
get
is
into that.
still
Yeah.
alive in this world.
Yeah.
But that was just a horrible period of history.
Yes.
But they're remembering the Holocaust today, this very day.
Mhm.
You'll hear it on the radio. It's been announced all day long. But here's your Bach piece here.
I love it.
Well, I know you know this.
I do know
Prelude and C.
Yeah. Yeah, Gordon Lightfoot, what he does, he's a Canadian artist who plays the guitar and sings. it's the most beautiful melodic, guitar, kind of almost like this, but then they'll sing about, just artistic stuff, or just like about flowers, or maybe he'll sing about homelessness.
Relationships.
Relationships, he's a fantastic artist. I have a lot of his records and CDs. I play him every day.
Do you have
Really?
Canadian Railroad Trilogy?
Yes, I do. Yes, I do.
After this, would you play Yezu?
Hold on, just a moment.
If you play too much classical music, I might fall asleep here.
You feel at home.
I do feel at home.
And that's the prelude in C. I just threw my little signature
Mhm.
run at the end of it.
Mhm.
It just usually stops on the chord, but I like to put that little run at the end.
Yeah.
And you want the AC Joy Man's Desiring? It's been a while since I've done it. Let's see if
Oh, I love
remember
that.
I had it as the processional in my wedding.
Wonderful.
it. See if I can remember it. Hold on.
You used to be able to sing Ave Maria
Mm-hmm.
in like the low
Mm-hmm.
opera type voice. But I've forgotten the words, so I just make up the words as I go of Ave Maria.
Emmett makes up words too.
Oh, yeah. Beautiful.
Absolutely stunning.
It is.
It's been a while since I've done it.
Thank you, Asaph.
As one of my favorite quote,
It's been a while
Authors.
since I've done that, so.
as one of my favorite quote authors said, "The time of classical music comes when the time of remembrance is in the mind."
Well, are you familiar with the 5 periods of music history? Well,
No, I'm
let's
not.
just run through that real quick. First, they had what was called the medieval period. I don't know if you ever heard of that. That goes back to about the 11th or 12th century, something like that, the medieval.
I have
And then they
medieval
had-
music at home.
And
on
then they
CDs.
have what was called the Renaissance era. That's probably around 13th, 14th century, something like that.
Latin opera.
And the
Yeah.
Renaissance is when they began playing in keys.
And then by that era, after that era, eventually we have what's called the Baroque era. This was around the time of, I think, Bach.
The 1700s.
Yeah, before, when classical
Maybe
music was first being
1600s.
started.
Mm-hmm.
And then from the Baroque era came the classical period,
Uh-huh.
where we had like Mozart and Chopin, Beethoven, those kind of people. And then finally we had what's called the Romantic era,
Yeah.
around the time of Aaron
Haydn.
Copland and so on, like the 1900s, 1910 or something like that,
Mhm.
somewhere around there. And then music started to evolve after the Romantic era,
Mhm.
to like blues, the
Jazz.
Negro
Classic rock.
spirituals, jazz, big band jazz.
Pop,
And then
Broadway.
eventually it was
R&B.
yeah, and eventually it was pop music, and then that evolved to the '60s invasion, the British invasion, and then it just evolved to soul and funk and all the rest. And it just
R&B.
kind of R&B, that's included. So, music has just really evolved,
It has.
and there's so many kinds of music to choose from these
Yes,
days.
I know.
Country,
Such
everything.
is why I chose the eclectic taste.
Mhm.
Yeah, I wouldn't be able to do that on the piano, obviously, but I'm familiar with it though.
The eclectic taste, I don't get it. You mean where you're
It's picking and choosing from anything.
Yes, the eclectic taste in music, not a lot of people will choose to use that word nowadays, but the eclectic taste in music originally came about as the word eclectic is usually used in religious forms of belief, meaning not just one but many different
Yeah,
kinds. When you say that you have an eclectic taste in music, you're saying that you have the love and respect for many different types of genres, such
Okay.
as, like I mentioned Ave Maria, that is the first ever opera piece of music that I heard. The second was actually made in the Czech Republic, and the translation for it was called The Women in Red. That was brought about at the time of the German 6th Army invading Stalingrad. that's when that was brought about.
That's called that's an old television show called The Virginian. That's an old Western.
But
early 60s.
Schubert had made Ave Maria
Yes.
quite prominent way back in the 1800s.
Well, you know there are two Ave Marias, you know.
But the Women in Red was a Czech Republic.
Was that the one
piece.
that was based on the,
I'll do the first Ave Maria here. I'll do them both. I'll connect them.
Do you mean you just like different styles of music? All types of styles, you respect?
That's what eclectic means.
Yeah, that's
well,
what I thought.
eclectic
Different
really
styles.
means collector.
Yeah.
And it refers to haphazard picking the best of various things.
Yes, that's what I like to do.
Yeah.
This is one of the Ave Marias.
And I have a very humorous episode connected with that. In 1972, I was involved with the theater department at the University of Montana. And I was cast as the little nun in House of Blue Leaves. And I was supposed to come out and start singing Ave Maria and lead the other nuns. And of course, we were all in our habits and everything, which I did, and we didn't do very well with it because we hadn't really seen the music before.
Yeah.
So we used to just do the few opening bars of it. And there was a little scene that I received a standing ovation for every night. It was just hilarious. And it was, the essence of it was that we
Okay.
go through life and we have all kinds of experiences, good and bad. But I think I have kicked the habit. And I took off the habit and threw it. The audience would always stand up and cheer.
I remember a time when I was about 17 years old. An old man, he was a veteran. He died of natural causes. I was still in my teens, and he walked up to me and he asked me, why do you choose classical over the new? And I told him, I said, and for those of you out there viewing this, classical music is, in my opinion, and many of my family's and my ancestors' opinions, the path to being calm is what they would put it as. And the reason for their opinions of that is because if you're sad or angry or if you've had a loved one die, the path to peace is what I call it. If you close your eyes and you picture the most beautiful place and you're listening to classical, it will bring you to that place within your mind. And when I answered his question, he closed his eyes and he said, if the path to peace comes within classical music, then what other paths are there in music? And for me, my mental illnesses, I do have many. One of those allows me to reach out with my connection, not just mentally, but physically and spiritually. And when I hear music such as
I did both of
what
those
he
Ave
played.
Marias for you just
But
now.
why do you call it a sickness instead of a gift?
I don't call it a sickness. Many would call it a mental illness, but I call it a gift.
Yeah, that's the stigma that we have.
Most people that have this gift, I've heard from them. Many of them have contacted me with the program that I am starting this summer. Many of them will probably end up coming to that and talking with me more. They've gone through years with me of realizing that many gifts that they're given through their mental illnesses aren't seen as a curse or anything bad, but they're seen as something that they can use through the public.
It's like another sixth sense.
Yes.
Sense.
Well, you know, that kind
Yes.
of reminds me of an episode, this probably before your time. You remember Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood?
I do.
I was just watching that show just yesterday. We were talking about disabilities, people with disabilities on the episode that I happened to see. and they didn't cover the mental illness aspect of it because they had to relate to children. But it was basically accepting a person just as they are, whatever their disability is, whether they have to work, wear a cane, crutches or something. And there's a really cute little girl on there. She had little braces on. And Mr. Rogers gave a little interview. And it's just the cutest little girl. And he asked her, do you ever get moments where you wish you didn't have to have your cane? And of course, from an honest point of view, she did. But then she learned to adjust with it, live with it. And the focus was just, you're accepted as you are. Nobody's better than anybody else. We're all on the same level ground. Whatever we have, whether it's a math or in my case piano, whatever, we're all the same. We're all on the same level.
But don't
ground.
a lot of us have what I call my internal iPod? I hear music in my head that is making a comment on what's going on at the time. So I used to tell my students, don't you have an internal iPod too? You don't have to have earphones to hear music.
Well, yeah, I guess
mean
we all
what?
have an internal clock on the inside when we hear music.
Yeah. Do you mean when you hear a song that's stuck in your mind and your
No.
head or something?
Suddenly I'll start hearing a melody.
You just
that is
like
making a
go for a
comment
walk
on
and
what's
an idea,
going on.
a
Yeah.
song
Is
comes
that
to
what
mind.
you have?
Yeah,
I
that's what I
have more of a what's called an ancient internal iPod, which means more of the older music, which allowed me back when I was first learning to play the piano. I can't anymore because of my I broke my hands.
Here, let me play a
when I was
song for
young.
you from the past. Tell me if you know this song.
Is that Underdog?
No. You might hear this part. Don't recognize it?
I do, but I can't think of the
I'll keep
name.
playing it.
I can't think of the name.
Here's the conclusion. I'll keep playing.
The name escapes me right now.
Ron Ely, that's the hint. That is the theme to a television show with Ron Ely called Tarzan. That was the
Oh, yeah.
Tarzan.
How about
I'll do it again, you might recognize it.
William Tell Overture?
Hold on. Now do you recognize it?
Yes, I do.
I never watched Tarzan, so
You recognize it, Teresa?
Well,
Oh,
the edition of Tarzan that when this was played was
It was that 1960s version.
Yes, it was 1960s.
Yeah, Ron
version. It
Ely was
beyond
so
my time,
handsome.
but-
He was such a handsome guy in real life. And he was perfect for that Tarzan. Boy, he used to beat them bad guys up on that series. Oh my goodness. Yeah, he just had the physique, because he was young. And
My
yeah.
favorite Tarzan was Johnny Weissmuller.
Well, yeah, I know Johnny
he
Weissmuller
was
was
the
before
favorite.
Ron
I
Ely,
know
but
that
Ron
one.
Ely had the look.
He was the
Ron
longest
Ely.
living one.
Yeah.
He had the most longevity.
Yeah, but Ron Ely had the look. I mean, you just go
Have
back
you
in
ever
time.
played? It was done on the piano by someone else, but it's called Palladio.
I know of it, but I don't think I'd be able
I've
to do
never even
that.
heard of it.
How about the
I would
William Tell
recommend it
Overture?
if you like.
I can do this, the
cello.
middle part of that, because that fanfare part I wouldn't be able to do.
Yeah.
Because that's not really a piano song, that's for those trumpeters, but here's the middle part of that.
Not
Oh, what
only
time
that
you have to
is-
leave?
Isn't that the Lone Ranger?
3.
Well, that's the television show that used it.
40.
All right, well, we'll continue the show when you have to leave. Just walk behind there and, let's see. You got a few minutes left,
Yeah,
so.
I'd like to add about
Go ahead.
my. For all you viewing this program, I'd like to bring up that this summer, actually, it was brought about last summer, but due to some health risks with a couple of my students last time, the program was discontinued for safety reasons. The program is called the Recon Hiking Program. It is for those who cannot get into the military or who have tried to take the ASVAB and failed. It originally brings about the simulation of the hard work it takes to become your best. The class schedules will come out as me and the volunteers that I'm gathering up progress towards the classes. They will most likely be happening on Fridays and Saturdays, probably within the afternoons to the evenings. A notice to those who do sign up, please remember to bring at least a gallon of water and snacks, as this is a non-profit program. But the contact information will be set out at the events list for MCAT. But I will hand out my email, which is firewolf2293@gmail.com.
Firewolf?
Yes.
Okay.
And that's for questions, comments, and requests for further information.
Why don't you say that again and spell the email?
The email again is firewolf2293@gmail.com. It's FIREWOLF, all one word, 2293@gmail.com.
Great, so they can contact you here. We'll be posting this show later on today, so as people see it, hopefully they'll contact you. And I know you have to take off now,
Yes, sir.
right? Well, before you do, have a piece of cake if you'd like, or if not, have some more
Take
of
it
that.
with you. Take some chips with you and some guacamole.
I have chips in
Can
my
we
pocket.
do
Well, I
just
tell you-
as I am?
Yeah, I'm gonna take that cake home if that's it, probably.
Don't eat it all at once.
Oh
Yeah.
no!
Breakfast and
See
dinner.
this gorgeous shape. I want to
Oh,
keep it
yeah.
that way. It might be a little thin, but
Yeah, you eat more than
Did
one
you
piece
say
of that
godless
cake
or
and
no,
you
godlike?
get
gorgeous. I say
Gorgeous?
gorgeous shape. Yes.
Well,
Is it
if you would have
marvelous,
said godlike,
Lisa?
I would have said.
No,
you
no, no,
would-
no,
I would have
gorgeous.
said that would kind of be impossible because no
No.
one can be godlike.
No, not godlike.
Can you check the
Gorgeous.
time, please?
Gorgeous? No, I would.
Yeah.
No, if I was
It's
a woman, I would. If
25
I was a
before
woman,
the hour.
I would say you look very
Maybe
handsome
it
and
would
stuff.
be
Thank you.
advantageous for me to
Dashing.
just leave with him.
All right, if you you can do that, and then we can just do the
You can
show
sing
for the rest
just
of the
as I
time.
am without me.
Well, no, we'll do it for you real quick. Let's do that.
That's
Okay. Take care, Eli.
it.
Nice to have met you.
I can't remember the words all of a sudden, but we're also remembering that today is the National Day of Prayer and the sacrifice that went into our living successfully and being able to avoid Satan and all his evil. And we thank the Lord and we thank the people who serve him.
Yeah, and also today is the Holocaust Remembrance Day also, National Day of Prayer. And again, not to get
Cinco
into
de
the
Mayo.
political side, but that was such a dark period in history.
Yeah.
And they're celebrating the remembrance of that for the Jewish people, and hopefully something like that will never happen again.
Yeah, absolutely.
That was horrible. That was very horrible. That 6 million Jewish people were slaughtered.
And
Can't
Christians as
imagine
well, so-
anything
In
worse.
horrible ways.
Well, see, like I
Well,
told you, I had a
there was
personal
also
friend that survived
homosexuals and
Auschwitz.
artistic individuals.
Yeah, I had a friend, and I used to give her daughter music lessons when she was a kid, the daughter. And so this lady was just a sweetie like you two, and she used to tell me what that was like in those years. I was like, holy cow. I thought I had problems. Nothing compared to
No.
that.
Oh,
Oh.
there's just, it's unbelievable.
Yeah,
Even
just
reading the
horrible.
diary of Anne Frank
Oh.
and
Yeah.
then reading I Never Saw Another Butterfly
Mhm.
and the account of Emilia, I think
Yeah.
it's Emilia, the girl, the Polish girl, Polish
Mhm.
Christian girl who was trapped into the Holocaust.
Yeah.
And it's really.
Well, I'm not going to mention this lady's name on television, but she was a real sweetie, and she lost her whole family.
And they used to do insidious things like besides starving people and
Oh, yeah.
making them die of thirst, they'd give them infected water.
Oh,
Yeah, they were
And
talking about that on the
introduce
radio
lice.
today. They
And
were.
use them for guinea pigs.
It's
yeah.
it's been on the radio all day today on YNOP Radio. Dave Brown, 88.3 FM. If people want to check it out, they're probably still talking about it as we're taping this show because it'll be going on all for the rest of
And
the
that's
day
the way of
and evening.
intolerance.
Yeah, it was just horrible. Well, Linda, thank you for doing both of these shows.
Thank you for having me here.
Yeah,
Have a
and
wonderful week.
Emmett, you
Yeah.
can
Stay
do the conclusion
healthy.
of this
Get
with
healthy
Teresa.
and stay healthy.
Yep, I agree. Oh, I forgot to
Get
pray.
even with those allergies.
Yeah. Yep.
Well, go ahead.
Heavenly Father, we thank you again for the time and the cake and the show in Jesus' name.
Yeah, that's a great way. Well, Linda,
And
thank
we
you.
thank
And
MCAT and
right.
what's the name of the bakery?
oh,
Bernice's
that's Bernice's Bakery. They provided this cake, and they're on 190 South 3rd West.
And don't forget Albertson's fresh guacamole.
Right. So we do some plugging here. Linda, we'll see you next week. Thank you.
Ciao.
Nice to see you again.
Nice to see you. Stay lovely.
You too.
Both
Stay
of you,
lovely.
yes,
Yep.
stay lovely, yes.
Yep.
And in the time we have remaining, you two can just keep me company.
Yep.
And we've got about 12 minutes left.
Oh, no.
Fascinating.
I'm going to have to excuse myself again.
That's okay, go
I'll
right
be
ahead,
right
Emmett.
back.
You'll just keep me company.
Yes. Hello, Cake. How are you? What's that? Oh, I know. That's very fascinating. What's that? Oh, I know. That's a funny joke. What's that? Oh, I know.
Yeah.
You know, I talk to washers and dryers. Like I have laundry at
Uh-huh.
my place. I always go, hi, washer. Hi, dryer. How are you? What's that? Oh,
Okay.
I know. I was watching a very interesting episode of Star Trek. It was very fascinating. It had lasers and everything. What's that? Oh, I know. Well, bye, washer. Bye, dryer. Isn't that hilarious? I wish I had a dishwasher at home. I have to do my dishes by hand, but that would give me something else to talk to, a dishwasher.
Well, you know, I have a dishwasher at home.
Oh, fascinating.
Yeah, I do. I have one.
Wonderful. Do you ever like to talk to it?
Not really.
Oh, I would. Every time the dishwasher goes, hi, dishwasher. How are you? What's that? Oh, I
Well,
know.
I'll tell you what I did do with it. I have a friend. Her name is Valerie McNair. She's been on this show.
Mm-hmm.
Valerie Brownie McNair.
Mm-hmm.
She's a real sweetie, and she gave me this. It's like a little decoration with stick-on, like a magnet stick-on, a giant one,
Mm-hmm.
and I have it on my dishwasher at home. It has like this beautiful floral scenery. here.
Wonderful.
And she gave that to me as a gift when it was like a housewarming gift at the time.
Yep.
And it's
Wonderful.
still on my
Are you
dishwasher
gonna
at
wanna
home.
take these chips with you
I'll take
to
some
your
of them.
house? Okay, take these then,
Okay.
because I don't think Teresa's interested in them.
Well, no, I'm gonna share some with Joel and so on too.
Okay.
Yeah.
So,
Oh, one thing I like to do. I know this is a kind of new topic, but another type of music I really love. I heard it on KUFM one time years ago. It's kind of like, I don't know how to classify it, but
keep
just
talking. I'm listening to you.
just surreal music. I had to record this. They called it alien radio.
See ya.
Yep.
Thanks.
You're welcome.
Yeah. They called it alien radio. Bye. Because it was just alienate the whole audience. They had groups like The Residents, Ronaldo and the Loaf, and it was the strangest music. It would be like if I pounded on the piano just in the strangest way, and just all these instruments just, crackly colliding with each other. One song was like choo choo gum choo gum gum choo choo dun, choo choo gum choo gum gum choo choo ding ding. I mean, up down, go down, pull down. I just loved it. I have it.
I don't know those. So.
Yeah. What I like to do with my birthday cake, when my mom gets me a birthday cake or something, often I'll just stare at the flames and play like The Residents or some of that weird music, and I'll just sit there in my pajamas and stare at the flames.
Well, you know,
Oh,
the only
isn't
thing
that
I didn't
surreal?
like about birthday cakes,
What?
you know, when they put a bunch of candles on.
Yes.
it? I didn't have a problem with the candles, but when somebody blows out the candle, they blow out other stuff too.
Yeah,
so
yeah,
it was
yeah.
kind of gross. But when you're a kid, your body can take it.
Maybe you could have those sparklers.
Yeah.
You don't
Yeah.
have to blow those out.
Yeah, I seem to recall when I was a kid, somebody put some trick candles on one of my cakes once, where you blow and blow and blow and it won't go out.
Oh yeah.
I had that.
Oh
happen.
yeah.
Yeah. So.
That was on an episode of Alf, as a matter of fact. Do you remember the
Yeah,
show
I remember Alf. You remember
Well,
Alf?
there was trick candles where it was Willie's birthday, and there were trick candles,
You
and
just
Willie.
blow and blow and blow and they don't go out.
So Alf said, "I'll take care of that, Willie Bob," and he poured some water on the cake and put it.
That was a funny show, Alf.
Oh, I
my
loved Alf.
birth mom loved that show. She used to watch that show every week.
That was one heck of a funny show.
It was the #1 show on NBC before the Cosby Show came out.
Really?
It was, yeah. Alf was #1 before the Cosby Show.
Yeah, I love that. I have a lot of episodes on tape.
It was the #1 show on NBC. It was so funny and it was so popular.
There were times on Alf that I was roaring with laughter and I had tears coming out of my eyes because of. Do you remember the Alf episode where Alf became just obsessive compulsive with Gilligan's Island, and he
I
watched
didn't
it all.
see that one. Let's see.
Oh, well, do you want me to tell them? Should I tell the plot of it?
Yeah.
Because I don't want to spoil it for
You
anybody.
can do it.
Oh, it was so. Anyway, Alf was this alien who crash landed on Earth from the planet Melmac, and he lived with the Tanner family in California, but he was constantly bored and trying to find things to do. Well, he became hooked on Gilligan's Island, just day after day.
That would have been funny.
And day after day, watching it, and he kept bothering Willie and Kate when they were trying to sleep. It's like the fun never stops on Gilligan's Island, except for this house where the fun stopped during the Eisenhower administration. And why do we have to have apple pie? Why can't it be like Gilligan's Island, where every day is topped off by one of Marianne's coconut cream pies? Well, finally they get them to sleep. And said, "Look, if you let us get to sleep," Willie said, "I'll even build you a little lagoon in the backyard." And Kate said, "And maroon you on the opposite shore." Well, Alf said, "Sounds great to me." Well, you'll never know. And he started singing the Gilligan's Island theme song. Well, when they woke up the next morning to get coffee, there was no water coming out of the pipes or out of the sink. And they said, "What the heck?" Willie went in it, and the whole backyard was turned into a lagoon. Alf dug up the whole backyard and turned it into a...
And turned into a lagoon like Gilligan's Island?
Yeah, and Willie
Oh,
fell
that
in the
must have
water.
been
Whoa!
funny.
And then
That must have been really
It
funny.
was his
That, I would have loved to have seen. I wonder if I could look that up on the computer.
Yeah, it is
Let's
so
find
funny. And then
that
Willie said,
episode.
"Alf, what have you done?" And he fell in the water again and went, "Oh." And then "You said I could build a little lagoon." Yes, I had a little lagoon, not the great Tanner Reef. Oh, I want
Wow.
I want a lawn I can mow, and those trees I can look at. No water and no hot, and you're gonna get it. Stay here till I get it. What are you doing? I had died laughing.
I'll have to check that out.
It was.
No, but that was really a funny show.
Yeah.
It's too bad it ended when it ended.
Now,
Yeah.
what would this show be like without Emmett?
I don't think this show would be what it is
Yeah, thanks.
without Emmett.
Thanks.
Seriously, yeah. I mean, just his rocker character
Yeah.
is one of the reasons why it works.
Yep.
And then his personality and
Yeah.
just
Thanks.
telling his stories and the washer songs.
Yeah,
and
I love it.
that all part of it adds to the
Yeah,
show. You know?
thanks.
It does. So
Thanks.
you're you're loved.
Yeah, I
We
love
may
you guys
tease
too.
you,
Yeah, I love
you
you
know.
guys too. Yeah, I love you very much.
We got about 8 minutes left. So let's just hang out in the cafe, have some fun, because we already celebrated the 100 show
Yeah.
anyway, so.
I wonder why that show went off the air. Was it because they were running out of ideas? If you saw the
No,
fourth
it-
episode, they were just running out of ideas, it felt like.
No, I just think it was time, and plus the Cosby Show had started coming out at that
Uh-huh.
time, and let's face it, you can't beat the Cosby Show.
Yeah.
You really can't.
Yeah.
I mean, that show is just as popular today in
Mhm.
2016 as it was when it first came out.
Hmm.
It's one of the best shows ever made in history.
The Cosby Show? I never
It
cared for
is.
the Cosby
Who-
Show
who was
myself.
No,
that?
really.
Now, what were the kids' names?
The character's name,
Yeah.
Theo and Vanessa, and oh gosh, it's been so long. This show's what, 20, 30 years old?
Yeah.
And there was Rudy,
Oh,
and
she was so cute.
Lisa Bonet's character, what was her name? No, they had a sister named Sandra, was another one. I can't think of Lisa's character. But anyway, it
My
was.
daughter looked like Lisa Bonet.
Yeah. I used to like watching Lisa Bonet. I just thought she was such a cutie on that
Yeah.
show. Well, they all were,
Yeah.
but her
Yeah.
in particular.
Yeah.
No, but what was good about that show was its portrayal of African American people. It
Yeah,
didn't
yeah.
portray them like
Yeah.
thugs, gangbangers,
Yeah.
and, like Sanford and
Mhm.
Son. No offense to Red Fox,
Mhm.
because that was a funny show too. But it just had a different
Yeah.
portrayal of African American people.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
was very fresh to see that.
Hmm.
And I think that's one of the reasons why that show was so popular, to see an upper class African American family and so on.
Hmm.
And the show was just funny.
Huh.
It was just like they had this episode where what's his name? Cosby's character,
Mhm.
Dr. Huxtable.
Uh-huh.
Well, he was teaching his kid about growing up. You know, they had a scene where Theo was in his room. He didn't like to clean his room up and
Mhm.
stuff. And he was getting bad grades in school as far as like, you're just scared to try because you're just afraid that stuff will ooze out of your ears. Stuff like that.
Yeah,
Just those
yeah.
kind of classic lines that were really funny.
Mm-hmm.
They had another episode where Cliff was talking about the Disney show Old Yellow. You remember that, Old Yellow?
Yeah.
And he's like, I'm like Old Yellow when it comes to my family. I guard my daughters. I keep an eye on them and make sure that no boys try to get them and everything. And the wife says, you know what they did to Old Yellow at the end of that movie? They shot Old Yellow.
Yeah.
Just stuff like that. It was just so funny.
Yeah.
But it's amazing how time flies, because that show's something like 20, 30 years old.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
Cosby Show. Came out in 84, I believe.
Yeah.
It was the 80s.
Season right after Alf. That was the
Wait,
first
I
was
thought Alf came out in 1986, unless from 1986 to 90. You know.
Well, I don't know, but I know that the Cosby Show came after Alf. But Alf was
Yeah,
the
yeah.
number one show on television prior to the Cosby
Yeah.
Show.
Yeah.
And of course, Alf was still just as funny, and
Yeah.
people can.
Some episodes of Alf I didn't care much for, like Alf learned about silent films and learned how to make a silent film. I didn't think that was too funny.
Well,
That
speaking
was
of- Speaking of silent films, they were just talking about Charlie Chaplin on PBS a couple of days ago.
Mhm.
They're rerunning those Chaplin films,
Mhm.
his career.
He was amazing.
He was, but that wasn't for me. But
Yeah, it wasn't for me either.
I understand his significance and his comedy, and because he played the tramp character that actually worked.
Mhm.
And he
It worked. It really worked. Every situation that Charlie Chaplin was in, he was the lovable tramp.
Mhm. Huh. Interesting.
and he got up on that high wire.
Yeah, I seem to recall that. Yeah. Yeah. Well, they I don't think they were thinking very much back in those days when they were
Yeah.
shooting these movies. The risk factor.
They didn't have OSHA.
Yeah. Or common sense or something. Like
Yeah.
90 feet up in the air. You better think twice about doing some scene.
Yeah.
That reminds me. There was a movie. I can't remember the name of the film, but Burt Reynolds was either directing this film, and they had this famous stuntman named Dar Robinson. I don't know if you ever heard of him.
Mhm.
He's probably the greatest stuntman that ever lived. He literally jumped out of a window backwards at 90 feet up in the air on film and landed on his target. And while he was falling, he was a bad guy shooting his guns up in the air as he was falling like this, and they would catch him, face first.
Wow.
But what's interesting is Burt Reynolds said, whatever person's beliefs are, before we shoot this scene, we need to bow our head for a moment. And they
Absolutely.
bowed their head, Burt Reynolds and the cast of this movie. And they took a moment to say a silent prayer
Oh,
before
yeah.
that stuntman jumped out that
Absolutely.
window 90 feet up, because if he made a mistake, there ain't gonna be no cut.
Yeah.
But he landed, he landed perfectly.
Mhm.
And he landed backwards. He literally crashed out of the window of this high-rise building backwards as a bad guy. While he was falling, he was shooting his guns.
Mhm.
His name was Dar Robinson. He was just a great stuntman, and they can look him up. Well, guys, it's about time to wind down.
Yep.
And you're gonna walk on with me when we finally leave. I'm gonna,
On the bus.
yeah, or whatever.
The bus, yeah.
I'm going to see if I can load these 2 episodes real quick before we take off.
Mhm.
So this is our
101 episode.
101 episode.
Fascinating.
Yeah. So on my right, we have affectionately again our aging rocker, Emmett.
Mhm.
The lovely Teresa Toigo. And of course, Joel Baird was on this program.
Oh, that was fascinating. Yes.
And Eli Miller was on this program.
Fascinating. Yep.
And Linda Brooks Curtis, and of course, yours truly. And again, I could not have this show without all of you, all of the different characters and so on. This is a lot of fun. Any last minute words you want to say, Emmett?
Yeah, another surreal joke to lighten the mood because there were these 2 dryers and they saw a cake, but it was very fascinating. And they were staring at the cake, but then this one washing machine came along and said, "Oh, I can't see around that." So the washing machine went to the other side of the room and started screaming about algebraic equations. Wasn't that hilarious?
Don't quit your day job. And we have on my left Teresa Toigo. So, any last words you want to say, Teresa, before we sign off?
I love you guys.
Yeah, love you too.
I love you too, yeah.
Yeah, but no, really. I mean, I know I'm hosting this show, but this show wouldn't be the show without all of you.
Yeah.
And it's just such a delight for me to do
Thanks.
this. And I just want to say thanks.
Yep.
Thanks for celebrating the 100th show.
Oh, I
thanks
love
for
it.
celebrating
Yeah.
show 101. Feel free to have some more bubbly and so
Yeah.
on.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess until our next show, Maranatha.
Yep.
I always freeze on that chord. I'm going to say a final acknowledgement too, even though we've signed off.
Yeah.
I want to also thank not only Joel Baird, but Scott Round, and
Yes.
of course Noel McAvoy. They are the host of Wake Up Missoula,
Mm-hmm.
that news program
Yeah,
that
yeah.
they do every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. And they let me have a small part in that to do the musical notes.
Fascinating.
Musical notes with Asaph, the news stories. And I do like the entertainment stories, whether it's musicians, movies, cartoons. And tomorrow I think I'm going to do a story on the Brown Hornet. Do you remember the Brown Hornet?
Never heard of it.
It was Fat Albert. Remember Fat Albert and the Cosby Kids?
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Well, their hero is the Brown Hornet.
Oh, okay.
So that's probably who I'm going to do a story on. It's either that or Johnny Sacco and his flying robot.
Mm-hmm.
Who's that?
Well, basically, that was a Japanese television show of the mid-'60s or so.
Mm-hmm.
And Johnny Sacco is this little boy. He gets stranded on an island with this guy from an organization called Unicorn.
Mm-hmm.
You know, because the ship went down because this monster, this big giant Godzilla monster attacked the ship. So Johnny Sacco and Jerry was his name. They got stuck on this island. And there was a bunch of bad guys on there. And the bad guys were building this giant robot. And they needed atomic power to activate it. And the bad guys, they were going to take over the world with this robot. And the robot would obey the very first voice it ever heard. Period. They couldn't undo it after that. Johnny Sacco managed to get into the laboratory because there was one of the guys, the scientist that the bad guys made build the robot didn't really want to be in on it. So he takes Johnny Sacco and Jerry aside, says, look, I'm really a good guy. I don't want to know part of this. I don't want no part of this robot. So they tried to blow up the laboratory, but the robot didn't die because it's just a robot. It was like 100 feet tall, something like that. It was a big old Godzilla robot. But Johnny Sacco happened to have the remote control, and he says, giant robot, go forward. So that means the bad guys couldn't get control of the robot because the little boy had spoken to it.
Mm-hmm.
And so the Unicorn organization had to teach this little boy how to operate that robot and teach him to use that robot to fight the bad guys and use it for good. And Johnny Sacco does. So that's how this series started.
Mm-hmm.
So it's
Yeah.
an interesting series. And it was sent to the U.S. from Japan originally.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just such a cool show. Corny effects, obviously,
yeah,
for that
yeah.
time.
Was it a live action or a cartoon?
No, it was live action.
Oh, I thought it was a cartoon for some
Johnny Sacco
reason.
and his flying robot. And this robot has some power like you wouldn't believe. But Johnny Sacco had to speak into he had a wristwatch. He had to speak into the wristwatch to tell that robot how to fight those monsters off. And that monster had this mega punch. He'd go, and he would hit the monster go fly away back. And then he had these missiles. Use the atomic missiles.
Yeah.
And these little missiles would come out of that robot's fingers. He'd go, and just blowing up monsters. It's just a pretty cool show.
Yeah.
It was a cool show, and it didn't last very long. I think about 3 seasons. something like
Interesting.
that. A lot of those Japanese shows were a lot of fun to watch.
Yeah, yeah.
I think they had a pretty good imagination in the 60s with those
Yeah,
shows.
they did.
I love
So-
those Godzilla movies.
Well, when I told you I lived in Taiwan, I watched a lot of them.
Yeah.
It was 25 cents in Taiwan at that time, Taipei, Taiwan, where my father was stationed.
Mhm.
They go to a movie theater on Saturdays, and my mom used to take me and my brother, and we'd watch all these Godzilla, Mothra, and Rodan, and all the rest of them.
Yep, yep.
So it was fun.
Yeah.
25 cents.
Amazing,
Yeah.
yeah.
It was like, what, 20 bucks to go to a movie
I
these
know,
days now?
ridiculous,
I
yeah.
remember those 25 cents.
It was 25 cents to go to a
Yeah.
movie theater
Yeah.
at that time. It's amazing.
Mhm.
All right, well, let me sign off, and you guys make yourselves at home, and I'll
Oh, we were
start.
still taping?
Yeah, we're still taping. We're still taping. Aren't you glad you didn't say something you weren't supposed to?
Oh.
All right, you guys take it easy, and we'll conclude this.